Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.
Ethereum Merge is once again in the news, and this essentially means the execution chain of Ethereum will change from mainnet to beacon. But we'll get into the details of this. Before that, we'll begin the show with big stories of the week. This is Coffin Crypto. I'm Arun Singh, and of course, we'll begin with this one, which is linked to Celsius. This has to be featured on our show every single episode. US crypto lender Celsius Network has filed for bankruptcy, becoming the latest victim in the cryptocurrency sector. New Jersey-based Celsius listed a $1.19 billion deficit on its balance sheet in a bankruptcy. So one more sad news. Moving on to the next one, the Blockchain and Crypto Assets Council, that's BAC, the only advocacy body representing the interests of India's crypto industry, has been disbanded by its parent MAI, which said it was forced to take the decision in light of the fact that a resolution of the regulatory environment for the industry is still very uncertain. IAMAI is the Internet and Mobile Association of India. Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin responded to proof of stake critics amid upcoming merge. One user had tweeted suggesting assets secured by such consensus mechanisms are a security. He replied by writing, "It's amazing how some POW proponents just keep repeating the unmitigated bare-faced lie that POS includes voting on protocol parameters, and this so often just goes unchallenged." So you've heard POW, POS. If you don't know the full form or if you don't know the details of it, do not worry, because we'll be covering all of this in our explainer. But for that, we'll go to our coffee wall. Ethereum Merge, it's in the buzz once again because very recently Ethereum finished its second of three major merge tests. This was on public test network Sepolia. So let's understand what is this merge. Ethereum explains it like this. The merge represents the joining of the existing execution layer of Ethereum, which is the mainnet, which with its new proof of stake consensus layer, that's the beacon chain. So it's the merger between Ethereum's mainnet and the beacon chain proof of stake system. This means proof of work for Ethereum will end and the blockchain will shift to proof of stake mechanism. But proof of stake, what's that? Well, that uses randomly selected miners to validate the transactions, whereas proof of work uses a validation method to confirm transactions and add new blocks to the blockchain. It is more or less like a competitive method. The first node or miner to solve the puzzle is given a chance to add new blocks in the blockchain. But why is proof of work not energy efficient? As the number of transactions in the blockchain increases, the computational power required to solve those puzzles also increases. So high computational power is equal to increased energy consumption. Hence, Ethereum wants to move to proof of stake. Now comes a very important question, which is how are they doing it? Well, they launched a parallel proof of stake network, Beacon Chain, to test the proof of stake consensus process staking. It's separate from the Ethereum mainnet and is meant to be a network of stakers only. They say the merge will eliminate the need for energy intensive mining and instead secures the network using staked Ethereum. See, when stakes are high, you can't immediately make changes to your existing network or chain. So that's how they're doing it. You see the diagram, you have a mainnet, and then along with it, there is Beacon Chain, and that's how they're bringing the change, and that's how they're eventually merging it. But as I told you in the beginning, there are total 3 tests that they're going to conduct. The third one is yet to happen. The final trial of the merge is set to occur on the Gorilla network over the next few weeks before the official merge on the Ethereum mainnet can be given the go ahead. But what do you need to do if you are an investor? Well, Ethereum says you do not need to do anything to protect your funds entering the merge. No action is required to upgrade on your part. More details will be discussed with our guest as well, as we have with us Rohas Nagpal, Chief Blockchain Architect Hybrid finance blockchain. That's Hi-Fi and Srijan Bhardwaj, serial entrepreneur. Both of you, a very warm welcome. So, of course, a quick reaction from both of you on this merge. We'll start with Rohas.
Sure. So, as we all know that after this merge, Ethereum is going to move on to the proof of stake, which is supposed to be 99% better from the environmental point of view. But if I'm very honest, I am very apprehensive about this happening. See, in the world, when we look at it, proof of work is the only consensus mechanism that has been tested vigorously. For the last 10 plus years, Bitcoin has been running on it, Ethereum has been running, and many other chains are running.
Sure.
And all the hackers in the world have tried their best to break it, and they have not succeeded. Now, we don't know once it goes into proof of stake, how strong that is going to be. So personally, I am very apprehensive about this migration.
I have some counter questions, but before that, Srijan, what is your thought on it?
I definitely agree with Rohas, and I also understand where the whole idea for proof of stake is coming. People say that the transaction fees is really high, the network gets congested, and that is why Ethereum developers chose proof of stake. But I definitely agree that proof of stake is a newer way to make sure that the transaction and everything on the network gets consensus. So it's going to be a little tricky to see how proof of stake actually rolls out.
Okay, as both of you have pointed a very similar point, Rohas, as you said, you're not very confident on proof of stake, but every time there's an environmental concern that arises out of Bitcoin or other controversies like these, experts have pointed, okay, proof of stake is probably one solution. If this is not ideal, what is the solution then?
That's a very good question, and I don't really think environmental concerns should be the factor based on which we make such a major decision. Because if human beings want to actually cut down on environmental damage, then I think most of what we do should stop. Whether it is from the clothes we wear, I mean, the fashion industry consumes so much of energy. So I don't think that is the correct way to think when we are talking about a security issue on such a multi-billion-dollar platform. So I think that's the wrong way of looking about things. I mean, we could say the same thing about banks. Banks have employees who travel in AC cars, go to AC offices, take flights. Has anyone ever calculated that and come to a conclusion banks should be shut down? So I don't think this is the right way to think about it. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, but why do you think the merge has taken this long? Why is it taking so much of time?
Because it's a very, very complicated technological change. I mean, we are trying to completely redefine the way in which the blockchain platform is running. See, initially Bitcoin did all the tweaks and became very, very solid. Ethereum could then carry on with the learnings of Bitcoin. Now what we are trying to do is make everything again from the ground up. And that is why I am very apprehensive that it is probably not going to be a good decision.
Okay,
it's a very complicated tech.
What is one quick concern you have, Srijan, on this?
So my quick concern is, like, imagine you are driving a car and suddenly you want to upgrade your car. And now you don't want the car to stop and you want the upgrade to be done in a moving car. So what basically is happening with Ethereum is that Ethereum has already grown to a level, and now the world wants that you should do the merge. But all the rollups and all the new stuff that is coming on for Ethereum has only been tested on the testnet. We have not really practically brought it. So this is why it's very risky, in my opinion.
But then their explanation is that, that's why we have, another chain simultaneously running with it so that it's less risky. And of course, we have to remind ourselves that Ethereum is the second largest cryptocurrency after Bitcoin. So definitely it's a huge task. But Rohas, would you agree with their justification or explanation that they offer?
No, because the testnets are not identical to the mainnet. So it is still a kind of a simulated situation, but the mainnet has a lot of different things which testnets don't have. So no, I don't agree with that logic.
And what happened to Ethereum 2, ETH2?
Actually, it's the same thing. I mean, ETH2 is just the new version of Ethereum, so to say. So all this is heading towards that direction. And it is not just this merge, it is also sharding and a few other changes which will come together. And the final version that we see is kind of what we can call as ETH2. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
And do you think there will be a price pump after the merge?
You mean to say the ETH prices?
Yeah.
Well, in all likelihood, people who are not technology people working on Ethereum will want to have a higher price. But honestly, I will tell you as a developer that if the price goes up more and the transaction fee is expensive, as a developer, I will not use Ethereum. Anyway, so many of us have shifted to other blockchains. So I think a price pump would actually be bad for Ethereum.
Okay, Srijan, let's say, okay, this merge actually goes as per their plan. What is one challenge which you think they'll still face even after a successful merge?
So there are three things that Ethereum 2.0 is trying to solve. One is scalability. Then the other is that they want to make it more secure and more sustainable in terms of energy. So I think doing all three of these at the same time is going to be tricky, because right now Ethereum can handle 15 transactions per second. And the idea is to make it and scale it to 1000 transactions per second. At the same time, we are moving it from proof of work to proof of stake. And then we are also bringing other mechanisms like sharding and all the rollups, and then all the future L2s that are planning to merge once all of this is done. So this is why I'm a little apprehensive that so many things are going. So my mind calculates this as a probability decision where every single thing has to go right in order to make sure that this is a success.
And then a lot of experts have also been pointing out that sharding would be a very big challenge. Why do they say that?
Absolutely. So sharding in its very basic sense is that if you have a huge database, you basically distribute and divide it into smaller databases,
sure,
just so that you can work around efficiently. So if you go through and read all the stuff that the developers have written about sharding, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to create 64 new shards or 64 new chains. And initially only a small subset of data would be stored rather than each node having data of all the other nodes. So this is why sharding is being seen as something which is very, I would say, uncertain right now in terms of whether it would actually be really useful for the Ethereum mainnet or not.
Last quick question from Rohas. Do you see any new use cases of Ethereum after the merge?
No. So then what is expected is that Ethereum would be faster and cheaper. So the use cases, I believe, would still remain decentralized finance and smart contracts, but hopefully they would become cheaper and faster.
Sure. Thank you so very much for joining us for this conversation. And now, speaking of Ethereum, there is Tron 2, which has been popularized as Ethereum Killer. So is Tron Ethereum Killer? We'll discuss with our guest. But first, what is Tron? Well, Tron on their website says it is dedicated to accelerating the decentralization of the internet via blockchain technology and dApps, that's decentralized applications. The network was founded in September 2017. It's built around the proof of stake consensus mechanism. Like Ethereum, the Tron network also supports smart contracts, making it dApp friendly. But why is Tron called Ethereum Killer? So first is scalability. So Tron has a more advanced space and capability to achieve scalability. Then decentralized version of the internet, as they've also explained and also identified themselves as. So on Tron, users can create, share, or even trade content. So that's a decentralized version of the internet. And then you have delegated proof of stake, which is a variation of proof of stake mechanism, and it's called DPoS. So 27 super representatives, that's SRs, are elected to verify transactions and package them into blocks. These SRs can also propose network improvements. With us, Sharat Chandra, VP Research and Strategy, Earth ID, and then Malik Kotadia, co-founder and chairman, Finnovation Labs. A very warm welcome to both of you. So would you say Tron is Ethereum Killer, Mr. Kotadia?
Hi Arun. My answer to that very categorically would be no. I mean, periodically we keep hearing about it, whether it is Tron, EOS, Solana, Cardano, they've all been tipped to be Ethereum killers at some point of time or the other, and some of them have evolved to saying there's no need to kill each other, we can coexist. I'll just give the analogy of Web 2.0 so that, it becomes more real life for our users.
Sure.
We've seen similar questions in the early days of Web 2.0 and for its leading applications or platforms as well, whether it is Facebook or Amazon or Google. And I believe there are three elements or components which are important in deciding an eventual winner or winners. The first is, of course, better technology and capability. And we heard from our previous guests that's Tron does score over here, whether it is in terms of transaction speed, it can do 2000 transactions per second, lower gas fees, etc. Even Solana scores here. The second would be user experience, how easy, how intuitive it is. And again, we heard from our previous speakers that all of these, including Tron, do facilitate dApps, NFTs, DeFi, which are considered to be perhaps the biggest emerging applications for these kinds of smart contract enabled platforms. And the third, very important but often overlooked, is the network effect. And that means essentially, when we see Facebook was not the first social network in the world, and it's not been the last. There have been many other attempts to replace it, but the only reason is Facebook has a network of 2 billion users. So the exit barrier becomes that much higher, and that's the same thing I believe will be replicated, at least in my estimate, in Web 3.0 as well. And if we see it, Tron has the highest USDT supply. It has its own stable coin. It has a very robust DeFi locked-in value, etc. But when you look at times of crisis like these, it's also human nature. Even in the equity markets, that investors flock to the largest and safest bets. So in the stock market, for example, everybody now wants to flock to the Microsofts and the Apples of the world, leaving behind the smaller, high growth, high flyer names. And if you look at those parallels, Ethereum still has the most number of DApps, almost a 75% share, 3,000 DApps. It has the highest DeFi value locked in. In terms of
we'll get into the details of this, but a quick reaction from Mr. Chandra as well. What is your answer to this question? Is Tron...
most of the points shared by Malik, my good friend, and I think it's important to highlight that, Tron was more like a ripoff or copied idea by Justin Sun, right? It was more like an improvement over the Ethereum idea itself. But if you look at other aspects in terms of, let's say, the total value locked, or which even Malik pointed out, it pales in comparison to what Ethereum has, right? But let's also look at the number of accounts. It has 100 million accounts and close to 3.4 billion worth of transactions settled. So that also gives you a glimpse of the network effect. But it would be an exaggeration to say that there's going to be Ethereum Killer. Even in terms of transaction per second, Tron claims only 2,000. If you look at Solana, they are far ahead in terms of TPS, right?
But then would you
I don't think...
Sure, carry on.
Yeah, so I don't think they are in any way going to replace Ethereum. So Ethereum Killer may just be a over glorification for them.
But would you go to an extent to call it an Ethereum copycat?
I would to a certain extent, because if you look at the founder's history itself, right? So he also copied Uniswap, made it just swap, right? So and the fundamentals just remain the same. Even the nomenclature has changed. Just the nomenclature has changed. Just look at the Tron stablecoin, an algorithmic stablecoin. It looks like a replica of the failed UST, right? So that way, I'm not so convinced about the credentials of that particular stablecoin. And it has also dipped last month significantly, fell down by more than 35%. And he's also struggling to restore the peg, pulling money off the exchanges. Close to 3.5 billion worth of USDC is being pumped into Tron DAO. So I don't think even on stablecoin front, I'm not sure that it will have the same fate as USD had.
Yeah, especially when we've seen a lot of stable coins also struggle in the past, Mr. Kotaria. So that's one. But then you've also said that, both these, Ethereum and Tron, are probably independent or strong in their own way. So on that front, so this, Tron has delegated proof of stake. Do you think that has any edge over Ethereum?
See, I think this is an ongoing and perhaps an endless debate in the community, that holy trilemma, as they call it, between security, speed and decentralization. And you can never achieve all three. I mean, I am no one to say it, even Vitalik has said it. So it's always going to be a trade-off between speed and security or performance and what you want to use the blockchain for. There is a very good friend of mine who's a professor at one of the universities in Singapore. He puts it well that blockchain was never supposed to be a solution for efficiency. If you want efficiency, there are already databases. It was supposed to be a solution for a very different set of problems, which is the trustless transaction. So I think the answer is evident in that.
So there's a term, Internet of the future. Which out of these is Internet of the future as per you, Mr. Kotaria?
So again, as I said, these are early days. It almost reminds me of going back to the early 90s of the internet era, and there were as many speculations as experts out there who would say, which would be the killer app or which would be the killer platform. And almost all of the Web 1.0 platforms died, and nobody even thought of Facebook.
And what according to you, Mr. Chandra? Which out of these is the Internet of the future?
Given the scalability challenges we have, I would still say the layer 2 solutions will have a bigger role to play. So the way Polygon puts it, like AWS of the Web3 world, would bet my bet on the layer 2 solution of the world.
Okay, thank you so very much, gentlemen. Now we'll take a very short break, but after the break we have MCQ coming up, which is my crypto queries. That's your queries answered by our expert Rohas will be joining us after the break. Keep watching Coffee and Crypto. Hi, you're watching Coffee and Crypto. I'm Arun Singh, and now we have for you MCQ. That's my crypto queries, where our expert answers your crypto queries. We have with us Rohas Nagpal, Chief Blockchain Architect, Hi-Fi Blockchain, and we have Bharat's question. It's less of a question and more of just like two words, which is one coin. So I think what he wants is an analysis of one coin. So it has been in the news. It came into existence in 2014. One coin promised to beat Bitcoin. It soon turned into a pyramid and Ponzi scheme. US Department of Justice found that mining of coins was fake. So what do you have to say, Rohas?
Sure. So actually this became very famous also because it is one of the rare occasions that a lady is behind such a big Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
This is usually reserved for men to do. And it, as you said, many years ago it was done, and in 2017 she vanished. And her brother took over the project, and now I think her brother has been sentenced to 90 years in jail. And why this is an important case? Because it was the largest Ponzi scheme of about $4 billion. And she's vanished, and now just this month, Europe as well as FBI in the US have declared her as one of the top 10 most wanted people.
And
I think a book also is coming up on this very soon.
And they've also been finding some traces of this entire Ponzi scheme and at different parts of the country. I mean,
yes, in many different countries. In China, they recovered few $100 million, and few other countries they caught. But the main person behind it has vanished. For a long time, nobody knows where she is.
Second question is about Shiba Inu's future.
So it is a meme coin, and it is not supposed to have any other use case other than being a meme coin. Now, of course, when I talk to my daughter, she gets very angry when I say meme coins don't have a use case, because she says as a youngster, memes are very important to us. So being a meme coin in itself is a use case. So I am too old to understand that, but if people like meme coins, then Shiba Inu and Doge are the two best.
Okay, last question is, will RBI come up with their own token?
So actually what RBI and other central banks around the world are coming up with is called a CBDC, or a central bank digital currency, which means money, instead of being in private databases of bank, could be on a platform run by the central bank, but it need not be on a blockchain. It need not even look like a cryptocurrency or a token. The decision is still to come from their side, how exactly they will be building it. But it is expected next year, and the finance minister has also announced multiple times that India will have a CBDC by 2023.
And it might just be a digital version of the currency that we have.
Absolutely correct. It need not be on a blockchain.
Sure. Thank you so very much. That's all the questions that we had for you, Rohas. With this, we've come to an end of this episode, but we'll be back next Friday at 6:30 p.m. I'm Arun Singh. It's goodbye from my side.
Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.